Hi there, welcome back to me. Today we have Bitcoin rising like nothing, like crazy. Is it crazy? Maybe. My prediction was crazy. I thought we were going to drop. Turns out we didn't. I'm not complaining. Am I? Yeah, I'm not complaining, really, because I made a purchase down over here, so I'm double positive in two of my main positions on my main account. I don't have them shown over here, but my first entry was right around here, 76,000, and I made another entry right over here at 79,000, which we grabbed that, and last night, well, I was maybe expecting we could drop to our support level at 76,500 approximately. Turns out we didn't, and we continued upwards, which is fine by me. Look at that. We finally have our golden cross, and we are slowing down at the resistance. 84,000 is where the most important resistance is. That's where we slowed down, and we're currently trending a little, it's still an uptrend now in the 1 hour chart, but slowly decaying would be the word, right? The current price of Bitcoin is 83,294, and we reached a high of 84,290 as well. So yeah, about $1,000 difference between our highest level of today, which we reached at around 5 o'clock p.m. And yeah, everything is looking fine. This weekend, I mean, it's Friday, right? The reason we went up, by the way, was a couple of things in terms of US-China possible negotiations could be coming soon. We, of course, know that all tariffs had a 90-day pause. People are speculating that this could be due to the 10-year node yield, whatever it's called, right? We can talk about that in just a moment. But we also got inflation data, yes, today, which turned out really good. So we'll get into all of that in just a moment. I'll go through the price action over here. Yeah, as I mentioned, we could see some decay. It is Friday, so Saturday tends to be known for its slowness, for its flatness, whatever you want to call it. How low can we go? 82,855. That's one level that I have drawn over here. It's noted mainly as a resistance, which we kind of did break out through, or maybe this whole area in general will be the resistance. I'm not sure. Saturday, yeah, it's just going to stay within this range, very likely, right? If we do rise further, won't get past 85,500. This is a very important downtrend that we have been maintaining now. I did have to adjust it to this level. Similarly with our... Did I say downtrend first? I hope I did. Our uptrend right now, it's holding really well, right? It's still above 2024 all-time high early, right? And sure, my prediction could be slightly wrong. I was just making a wild prediction here. So I told you guys, don't take this like as legitimate. But, maybe we do drop. Maybe we rise. Could be over here, right? That could still play out. I don't know. If we do see a drop, Bitcoin can drop. Have you seen this? Like, come on, right? Literally any news about tariff could cause a drastic movement like that. I will keep this drawn here, however, because of course this is not playing out exactly as I've drawn it. It's not supposed to, but this area right over here, I don't know. Maybe we do get some movement, some volatility. But if we do, I mean, we're going to need a lot of it to break out of 85,000, which we are getting a little bit closer to there, right? Let me go to a 4-hour chart. I think it would be easier to visualize, yes. So, yeah, right? Getting a bit of divergence over here, but that's fine. Who knows? Maybe we'll maintain 80,000 as a support. I hope we do. If not, worst case, of course, is this line, 76,500. It's the most important line we should be paying attention to. We don't want it dropping lower than that, because it would be at risk of breaking the uptrend, and I don't want to have to redraw this uptrend because it's been maintained since 2024, so it's technically like the uptrend of the bull run, right? This uptrend has to be maintained in order for the bull run to exist, which it still technically doesn't exist. I don't think we're in a bear market. I think we're just in a drawdown, a very big one, for a bull run, which is common in bull runs. It's also something you gotta know. Bull run meaning like just everything rallying in price, right? Rising in price. And it's cyclical. Like this is something that Bitcoin does, right? Last year we had our halving event, so the year after is technically when we'll get that supply shock. A lot of FOMO will start kicking in. There's two waves of it. The first wave already, I would say, happened with Donald Trump's election victory. We saw Bitcoin rise to a high of 110,000 US dollar. Almost. And from there, we've just been heading downwards, right? And this downtrend, it's coming to an end. It's converging with the uptrend that we're seeing over here that is maintaining this bull run alive, is what I say. So that's why I've drawn what I've drawn over here, right? I don't think if price drops, we must not go lower than this. And an eventual breakout is set to happen, according to M2 Money Supply, by May, right? Maybe not exactly May, is showing maybe a little bit later in May, which I wouldn't discard that idea, because May 7 is when we're getting maybe a rate cut. We have the FOMC meeting May 7, right? That's going to be important. If we don't get rates cut on that day, which it's not likely, it's probably likely, right? We got a 60-40% chance of that happening. 60% chance nothing happens, 40% chance we do get a rate cut. It would be great if we got a rate cut. Market would, no doubt, start rallying from there. That could be one of the triggers. The other one, and I think it's starting to become more of a possibility now, actually, now that I think of it. I'll get to that in a moment because of the economic data we got today. Now, the other option is, of course, if nothing happens, sure, that's fine still. It would all depend on what Jerome Powell says after. Usually Jerome Powell delivers a speech after the Fed interest rate decision, whether or not they keep the rates or they cut it. We should not see a rate hike. That should be off the table and would be horrible for the markets, and something that Donald Trump does not want either. Donald Trump does want Jerome Powell to cut the rates as soon as possible. That has been clearly noted as Donald Trump's top priority, on top of tariffs, on top of stock market, right? He's paying attention to the 10-year note yield, right? Nick Fuentes pointed this out, and I got to give him credit for it because he opened my eyes to the situation as well. He gave a great explanation if you want to go watch it. It's on Rumble. He said that Trump blinked because the bond market imploded last night. He's talking about 2 nights ago. It was not all part of the plan. He's saying that this was a panic-induced reversal, kind of technically attacking the Trump administration. Not really attacking, I wouldn't say. But like just pointing it out in general, like, hey, maybe they're not really knowing what they're doing, right? The tariff stuff seemed okay, but, you know, what's going on with the bonds right now, it's not good. Because people start shifting away from the stock market and buying bonds, something that they think is safer. Stock market drops, bonds rise, the yields drop. Because the percentage difference from, you know, if you keep buying bonds, that is going to increase. The difference between that versus the actual debt, you're going to keep rising that amount. So the difference between whatever that is with the actual debt, I don't know if I'm explaining this right, that percentage decreases every time, right? And of course, there was also this something happened. I also shared it yesterday where maybe one of these hedge fund managers went 100x on one of the positions there because it's not regulated properly or something, and made everything crash in the bond market, which kind of made Trump to make that spontaneous decision to cancel the tariffs everywhere else, except for China. And we'll talk about China in just a moment as well. So that's one thing that we took away from that, right? It convinced Trump to delay the tariffs by 90 days. The 10-year note yield. It made the Fed also ready to stabilize markets if needed. We'll talk about that. Makes Trump ready for a phone call with Xi Jinping. Became one of Secretary Bessent's top priorities now. And it's also unwound the $800 billion plus basis trade. The bond market is a new driver of economic policy, it's seeming like, right? Anyways, I'll get into all of that in just a second. I do want to go through other coins as well. I've not finished my technical analysis, so I'll get to that. Yeah, like I said anyway, bottom line, if you weren't paying attention, is that may likely break out according to M2 Money Supply. Next is, well, not this. I want to talk about other coins first. Ethereum. We were kind of like in the middle of things last night. I think we were over here. Seems like we're rising over here and using this resistance 1,600 for Ethereum, the most important level for it to be breaking or trying to break out of next. We had a beautiful support over here. Well, not really beautiful. Nobody likes to see Ethereum at $1,384.90 and 36 cents. Sorry, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Downtrend confirmed for Ethereum and every altcoin in existence at this point. It's literally just Bitcoin, hence why we're seeing Bitcoin's dominance at all-time high levels. Not all-time high, but very high levels. Recent high, yearly high. I don't know how to explain it. Bitcoin dominance. There you go. We're reaching the same high we saw at February 3rd is what it says, but it was really February 2nd when the whole market crashed for the first time, when the first set of tariffs were announced to Canada, Mexico, China, right? Really, we have not seen these levels in a very long time. This is 2021, the last time we saw these levels, before the alt season actually happened. March 2021, then Bitcoin dominance dropped because up to May, everybody started buying altcoins. You'll notice that this is exactly 4 years ago from now. That's also one interesting thing to point out over here, right? You're seeing Bitcoin's dominance above 60% right now. We're in April. You saw the same thing in 2021. March, April, we have Bitcoin above 60%. I'm not sure you're going to draw a line. 60% seems to be that sweet spot. Let me draw this. Load 60. There you go. Red line, okay? When is this? April, it started dropping like throughout April until May. May dropped it to a low of 38% Bitcoin dominance. That is crazy. That means almost like, yeah, what is that? 60% of all of the crypto market cap is in altcoins. That's when real altcoin season began, right? May 2021, Bitcoin had already made its bull run by then. I don't know. Maybe we're in a bit of a delay this time. And that is noticeable. You'll notice, like, if you compare the last 4 bull runs, the last 4 4-year cycles, you'll notice that each time Bitcoin's been slower and slower and slower to start its true bull run potential, right? Its parabolic increase. So we're kind of seeing that same deal right now. We are above 60% Bitcoin dominance. And maybe, who knows, by May, this could start dropping over here and we'll have our alt season. I don't think that's going to be the case, though, realistically. I do think still that we will have Bitcoin dominance a little high, probably until when? Like September, October, around that kind of time. We could start seeing Bitcoin dominance drop and flow into altcoins by then. Possibly. Who knows? Only time will tell. Nobody really knows. That's the point. So given that the situation, reason why I'm talking about that, every altcoin has a confirmed downtrend. It seems like they're all in a bear market, as if this bull market is over. The bull run is gone. But for Bitcoin, that is not the case still. Bitcoin is still strong, healthy, and will lead the way. This breakout is absolutely necessary by May. That's what I'm going to say about that. Keep clicking that. Solana is at 120. That's a good recovery. We're at this resistance at 121 is what it says, but it's practically 120. That's fine. We're very close to breaking a downtrend on this too. Very short-term downtrend though. What do we have here? Do we even have an uptrend anymore? I don't really think so. I'm going to call that an uptrend. Very long-term, maybe. But we do know, you know. This downtrend is absolutely a thing that we're going to have to break out of for Solana. In the meantime, we could see a slowdown or possibly price decay until the end of this weekend, where we get some more volatility. XRP also, everything downtrend. It's at $2.01, up 2.23% nonetheless. We had a nice rally for most cryptocurrencies, around 2% for almost everything. Solana up with the 7% though. That's impressive. SUI is $2.17. If you compare this to XRP, it's actually worth more and probably more volatile. I think SUI will outperform XRP in terms of price, right? They're worth the same thing, but SUI has better volatility, maybe even a better chain in general, my opinion. And it also reached a higher point than XRP has. SUI reached an all-time high of $5.37. What has XRP reached? $3 this year? $3.40 was its highest. We're currently $2.01, right? Almost half of what it was. So if you ask me which one has more potential, I would say Sui does. Litecoin has been slowly recovering, actually. 63 was its lowest point here. Did we see a lower point than that? No. Not at least since October. So this is a low point from October, actually. That's interesting to see. And we're on our way back up. 75 is the current price. It is up 1.40%. So good for Litecoin. Next resistance. Would this even be counted as a resistance? Probably. It was the previous support. I wouldn't use this as Fibonacci levels for, you know, the upside where we could be heading next. So ignore that. Here's what I'll be drawing out so far. That's the resistance that we see. Served as a support right over here a couple times. We broke through that. So I feel like that's the next level we're going to have to pay attention to, which it's looking like $80. $80. I agree with that. Psychological level, everything, right? Cardano is at 62 cents, up 0.64%. Also overshadowed by this resistance over here, possibly also a downtrend that I'm too lazy to draw. It's obviously in a downtrend. Supertrend also coincides with 68.7 approximately. So that'll be something more interesting to break out of in order for us to genuinely confirm an uptrend, right? Seems like it's currently in the middle of things though. 62 cents for Cardano. All right, that's all. Yeah, Bitcoin's price slowly decaying here. Yeah, I feel like our move was made all the way up to here. 84,000, important resistance. We'll see what happens next. All right, finally, let's talk about this. So we saw a slight drop previously due to the fact that China raised their tariffs on the United States goods from 84% to 125%. They keep one-upping each other, matching up their tariffs every time. China obviously will not be backing down, as they said they would not. So they're giving them a fight, even after the United States did what they did, right? Paused all tariffs and raised even more to China. You know, they just redirected all their energy from spreading it across the globe and just putting that all into one package to China, directed at China. You know what? The tariff war is now with China. That's it. The only country that retaliated. And so did Canada, by the way. But whatever. It's neither here nor there. So what is China doing in response? A couple things. First of all, and I've talked about this, they're dumping their treasuries, US treasuries, and they're buying gold instead. As a result of this, we saw that crash in the US 10-year bond yield, right? And we're seeing all-time high levels for gold. Wow, that is 3,245 was the all-time high. 3,236 current price. I don't think markets are open. Yeah, market is closed. It'll open again soon. No, it won't. It won't open for a whole day. What am I talking about? It's going to be Saturday. I forgot. So yeah, Bitcoin's closing out the week at all-time high levels. What the United States should do is the opposite here. What if they sold all their gold reserves and bought Bitcoin? That would be pretty interesting, wouldn't it? Also, I wonder if, what is his name? Ryan from GameStop did his Bitcoin buy yet? He could have bought the dip, right? I don't know. Reason I'm saying this also, by the way, for gold is that, you know, gold is at a all-time high. You could sell whatever gold you have. We know that Bitcoin will do better than gold in terms of everything, right? In the long run. So what if you bought this current dip that we have on Bitcoin? I'm saying dip, quote unquote, talking about like the macro scale. If you're looking at the 1 week chart, sure, Bitcoin is at such a good price right now to purchase. It would make sense, right? You purchase Bitcoin right over here and the growth potential that you have for it is much larger, right? That's just my financial advice for the US government. If they want to take it, I'll take full credit for any financial damages. So, yeah. What if the US retaliated by doing that? What do you mean, Bradley? Cineplex Milton 450. No. Gold is better. How is gold better than Bitcoin? It's not. The only difference is that it's physical versus digital. And you can always find more gold, but there's going to be a point where you cannot find more Bitcoin. Look how much one Bitcoin is worth right now. 83 times, I was going to say 83 times more than gold, but it's not. What is 83 divided by 3? It's 27 times more costly than what gold costs. Sorry, Bitcoin is. Yeah, so is Bitcoin too. Bitcoin is also reliable. Gold, sure, that's an old thing of the past, though, is what people say. You can always find more gold. There's gold mines everywhere, right? If, you become carbon, you get recycled into earth, you become a mineral, your stuff, and then you become gold, right? Sure, that of course, on the whole planet, there's only a certain amount of gold. I'll agree with that. But people will still be mining it for centuries to come, right? We haven't found every single gold that exists on the world yet. So there's going to be a time when, for Bitcoin, there's no more Bitcoin that you can find. Also, if you're going to hoard, say you have $100,000 in gold, how are you going to hold on to that, right? You're not going to keep gold bars. No, on Bitcoin, you just carry your cold wallet around, which is the size of a USB stick, and you could carry millions in there. So, gold is what we'll use if the market goes down. Yeah. I mean, gold's prices have also dropped before, right? It's not always safe to everything, although people do consider it a reserve currency, right? But it has had its dips similar to what Bitcoin has, right? I'm looking at a weekly chart over here. It's always going to have its dips, right? Same thing with Bitcoin, but overall, it's going to continue rising. One thing I will say for sure, though, is that the price of Bitcoin typically trails what gold does. Let me go to a daily chart here. I'm thinking, if we're comparing this is probably where we are right now with Bitcoin. We just had our first rise. Maybe we lateralize for a bit. Maybe we have a second rise over here. But I'm saying around this area, it could be May for 2025, sorry. We'll start rising again. We'll meet our previous all-time high, and then we'll just continue rising. This is also rising as well because of M2 money supply. I think it has more of a quicker impact, right? People, of course, would want to hold on to gold. Gold coins, Bitcoin is a fan. Sure. I mean, yeah. If you show also the historical returns of gold versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin has outperformed gold in less time. So, I don't know. It's up to you, really. I mean, both are good still, but I would prefer Bitcoin. The one thing you don't want to hold, though, is actual US fiat money, dollars. The US dollar has dropped down to 100 at the dollar index, right? So these are new lows. We're also seeing the same thing with the Chinese yuan, also falling to lowest level in 18 years. We're seeing this with every forex pair as well. Anything that goes against the US dollar is increasing in value, right? For example, Canada US dollar, that is usually shown as USD CAD. So USD drops, Canadian would rise on top of that. It's all due to the trade war, and it's also partially the reason why we're seeing Bitcoin rise as well today. Bitcoin goes against US dollar. If US dollar gets weaker, Bitcoin goes up, and that's part of the reason why we saw an increase as well today in the prices. One thing I also wanted to mention was price producer index. US factory gate prices unexpectedly decreased month over month, so that's supposed to be a good thing. Is the first decline in PPI since October 2023, following a 0.1% rise in February and compared forecasts to forecasts of a 0.3% increase. This means prices of goods went down 0.9%, which is also the biggest drop since October 2023. It was mainly due to an 11% plunge in gasoline. Prices were also lower for chicken, eggs, beef, and veal. Fresh and dry vegetables, diesel fuel, and jet fuel also moved lower. It all really relies also on the liquid gold, is what we would call petroleum, right? gasoline. If it costs less to, fill the transport trucks up with gasoline to drive goods from one place to another, the items will be cheaper. If it costs more gasoline, if gasoline costs more, you're going to have to raise the prices of the goods you sell so that you can cover for the expenses of gasoline, right? We are seeing petroleum at new low levels as well that we haven't seen in a very long time. If we look at crude oil, it's also been dropping, right? Compared to everything else. So, yeah. Overall, I think that is a good thing. And also this data helps determine the statistics, the probabilities of us seeing any rate cuts. What's more probable is still 4, I believe. Oh, it's looking like 1, 2, 3. 3 rate cuts. Okay. Looks like we're 87% chance of getting one in June. 85% chance of getting another one in July. And then a 54% chance of getting one in September. Nothing else for that. December has now turned into almost a 50-50 of whether or not we're getting a 4th rate cut. So this data that we got today did change the probabilities in that slight new way. U.S. President Trump is now open to making new trade deals with China, according to the White House. And part of what we saw with the 10-year, Treasury yield, that Chinese embassy in the US keeps on trolling, it seems like. First time they just said, @real Donald Trump. Like they just tagged Trump for no reason. That was pretty funny. This one now, they posted a meme this time where it seems like, I guess, Uncle Sam smacking somebody in the head. Says, don't retaliate and you will get rewarded. Open your mouth. He's starting to give him a lollipop, but then he just shoves the bat in his mouth. So, of course, a comical meme that they're doing over here. Yeah, we'll see. And look at them still fighting over percentages after being very old. Xi Jinping and Trump. We also had Fed Kashkari, I think, speak today. Who was it? Was it Kashkari? Fed. Collins and Musalim randoms. And Fed Williams. All these Fed people speaking. And here's Kashkari. I'm not crazy. Okay. So yeah, they gave some speeches and mentioned a couple important things. Neil Kashkari reportedly said that the Fed has tools to provide more liquidity. Of course, we know what the tools are, and that's the money printer, inflation. Why are they doing this? Because of this. The Fed says it's absolutely ready to help stabilize the market, which is bullish for Bitcoin. And of course, right, they will be providing stimulus to increase to pick up the pace of the market. By when are they going to do that? Probably May, right? Cutting interest rates. Inflation is too low, right? So they'll start increasing the inflation a little bit more. Tariffs could bring some inflation, like a lot of inflation is what they're thinking. They don't want inflation to be exaggerated. They usually say like inflation should be kept at a very low level, right? You shouldn't have no inflation and you shouldn't have excessive inflation. What do you do to regulate that? You either increase or decrease the interest rates, right? So that's why the Fed is always checking out the data that comes out to see how the macro economy is doing in general. All right. Global M2 money supply versus Bitcoin's price. These are supposed to be attached, but you get the point. It's looking like this is reaching new all-time high levels, global M2 money supply. And that's just recent, right? What does this mean? Okay, so this is obviously offset by, I think it should be 180 days. I don't know how much the offset is by on this chart, but from what we know from Colin is that it's usually 108 days, right? This is the chart that we should be looking at. We're currently over here. A little bit of divergence, as I mentioned. I was expecting a drop as portrayed over here, and then a pump later on, but it seems like that pump kind of came in a little bit early. Maybe we will drop from here, who knows, right? We still got a couple days to figure that out. Maybe we go back up to where we are right now, which would technically be like over here. So that's why I didn't delete my drawing. I still feel like it could be in play still. We're looking at around 83, 84,000. Very important resistances. And what happens exactly here? The downtrend coincides. So that's why I feel like it's still very important to have a look at. Global M2 breakout. We were thinking like, okay, because we only saw this data based off of the 180 days forecasted ahead. We obviously don't know what's going to happen after. Did I say 180? I meant 108. 108 days from now, we don't know what's going to happen. So this is always going to generate new data. And it was looking like this could have been the all-time high. This could have been the all-time high. Maybe this. But it seems like we're making new all-time highs even more. How far will this continue, right? Obviously, Bitcoin will be trailing this. It's kind of been doing that, right? For the past couple of months now with 80% accuracy. So if this continues, Bitcoin's still going to be making new all-time highs in, what is this, almost August, right? July. So, you know, there's still hope if you are expecting any rises on Bitcoin. I think this just makes so much sense. I say it every time. Read what the post says. Bitcoin forecast, it looks like Bitcoin will have a 2-month-long pump. May through end of June. Why you're still saying June? This is July. End of July is looking like. Followed by a 1-month corrective period, roughly in July. Okay, I see what you mean here. Like one small correction over here. I don't think that's going to be major. It's looking like we're dropping, what, 130,000 to 120,000? That's not too bad. Come on. Anyways. Followed by another pump from the end of July onward. So if you see another dip, you buy the dip. Or maybe, I don't know, would you really want to buy Bitcoin at 120,000? With the possibility of buying it today for 83,000. Yesterday, day before, a couple days ago, earlier this week, it was 74, 75, 76,000. Those were great prices to purchase. I took advantage of that. I'll see how far I can go. I'm going all in with this one. We'll see what happens. All right. Here's the fact is that Bitcoin has tracked with M2's movements 80% of the time for the past several years. Wow. And if you want to watch more on that, you check out Colin Talks Crypto on Twitter. That's all. This is pretty funny. Trump really wants Jerome Powell to cut those interest rates, right? So I think that's why he's doing the best he can to mold the economy into what he wants it to look like, to make it appear like, oh, inflation isn't an issue, Jerome Powell, you should cut the interest rates now. So he apparently asked the Supreme Court if he can fire Jerome Powell. That'll be pretty funny. He can't, obviously, because they're two separate entities, but that'll be pretty funny. Yes, so that's all. That's all I have to talk about. And yeah, so what am I expecting? Price decay, we'll see by tomorrow. Slow Saturday, and then Sunday could bring us volatility. I think likely to the downside by Sunday evening when Asian markets open. Asian markets, yeah, it's going to be the first market to open, first of all. Why would they pump? They're in the middle of a trade war. So until that gets resolved, we won't know for sure. Why would it pump? Unless they make some form of a deal with the United States, maybe we get our breakout earlier. That would break the M2 cycle, but yeah, we'll have to see. I'm expecting a drop regardless. Like, this still in play for me. I know it's kind of diverged a little bit. It's fine. It's whatever. I'm not complaining about a pump, right? If we pump, so be it. I'm ready. But always just have that possibility in the back of your mind. We can drop where? Probably back to maintaining this uptrend level over here. We shouldn't drop less than the all-time high of 2024. That's all. 73,843. No, that's not going to happen. Breakout May. That's all. That is your projection. All right. Getting ready to end the stream here. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Hit like and subscribe, and